The story begins with a girl named Anir, who believes the US is full of opportunities and plans to sneak in and work hard. But without a green card, she can't find a decent job. To save money, Anir finds a shared apartment and moves in that night. Little does she know, this place will start her nightmare. At night, eerie things happen. She dreams of her deceased mother stroking her hair, asking her to stay. Anir agrees, but it's no dream. As she turns, a hand pulls back from her back, though she's unaware. The next morning, on her way out, Anir spots some strange powder smeared on the doorknob, but she's in a rush for work and brushes it off. In the stairwell, she runs into another tenant who immediately starts eagerly introducing himself. Anir doesn't notice the layers within the portrait of a blonde beauty as she quickly turns to leave. Unbeknownst to her, the hallway is filled with eerie figures, their eyes glowing a terrifying white. At work, her colleague helps her get a fake ID, but the price suddenly doubles, out of reach for Anir. Luckily, her cousin who lives nearby promises her a high-paying job, and his wife gives Anir a spare coat. Feeling hopeful, Anir returns to the apartment, but strange noises come from the locked basement door marked with suspicious scratch marks. Growing uneasy, she moves closer only to be interrupted just as the landlord suddenly appeared. Anir seized the moment to ask the landlord for her deposit back, hoping to use that money to get a fake ID and attend the interview her cousin had lined up. But the landlord coldly refused, claiming the deposit was already spent on renovation materials. Left with no choice, Anir retreated to her room to rethink her next move. Just then, a girl's choking sounds echoed mysteriously through the vent. Knowing the blonde beauty lived downstairs, she quickly knocked on the second-floor door. Anir knocked for a long time before realizing the door wasn't locked, and the place was empty. Not at all like someone was living there. Then faint blue powder appeared on the doorframe again, but she didn't think much of it, assuming the blonde had moved out. Meanwhile, a ghostly figure slowly emerged from the shadows. That night, Anir dreamed again of her mother, who was now staring fixedly at a corner in the hospital room. Anir turned back and saw a strange square box appear in the hospital room, with a pair of hands pushing open one corner of it. She thought it was just a simple dream, not realizing she was already being watched by something terrifying. The next day, Anir went to work at the factory as usual, when suddenly a butterfly flew right behind her. And then something eerie happened. The touch of that hand felt terrifyingly real and vivid. But seeing so many colleagues coming and going, Anir thought it was some prank. Eager to get her fake documents, she asked Jaime about it. Jaime offered to lend her the remaining $2,000, but on the condition that if Anir made it big, she wouldn't forget her. Naive and trusting, Anir handed over all her savings to Jaime. On her way home, the lights behind her suddenly went out, and then she saw a deranged man fighting atop a streetlight. Thinking she was just imagining things, she headed into the apartment, lost in her joy and completely unaware that, as soon as Anir got back to the apartment, she saw a bald man repeatedly banging his head against the basement's iron door while muttering to himself. Shocked by this eerie scene, she quickly ran to her room. Just as she sat down, footsteps came upstairs, and the hallway lights suddenly turned on. Once sure the coast was clear, Anir finally stepped out to check. But the bald man was gone. In the kitchen, she ran into two strangers who had just moved in. They chatted briefly before the landlord showed up. When the landlord showed Dame and Xiaomei around the apartment, Anir heard strange noises coming from the study. Seeing no one around, she sneaked inside and noticed a tape recorder running, playing mysterious and ancient chants about sacrifices. Nearby was a photo with a square box. But before Anir could recall where she'd seen it, something unexpected happened. While cleaning up the mess, Anir glanced toward the window and thought she saw someone standing there. Looking up carefully, there was nothing. Panicked, she quickly tidied the study and escaped. The next day at the factory, she found out Jaime had fled overnight and couldn't be reached by phone. Anir begged her boss for Jaime's address but accidentally angered him and lost her job. Dejected, she went to take a shower to calm down. Just then, odd sounds came from the drain. She quickly turned off the tap and leaned in, trying to listen closely. At that moment, a familiar figure appeared in Anir's sight. He instantly recognized her as the missing blonde beauty. But when he pulled back the curtain, the figure vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, the noises from the sewer grew louder and more intense. A bad feeling crept over Anir. He quickly got dressed and rushed out of the bathroom to find the landlord standing there, drunk as usual. Anner hurriedly asked about the blonde woman, but the landlord claimed she had moved out days ago. So who was the figure he just saw? As Anner was about to leave, the landlord suddenly called him back, saying he now had the money to refund his deposit the next day. This was great news for Anner. But would he really get that money? Later, while lying on the bed searching for a new job, a butterfly flew in. Anner tried to swat it away, but soon after, the butterfly came back to life. Anner realized it was a false alarm. Just as he was about to leave, he sensed something was off. The door to his room, which he had locked before going to bed, was now wide open. Mustering his courage, Anner carefully peeked out and saw a ghostly figure steadily approaching from the opposite hallway. Luckily, it didn't attack, but instead slipped into a room. It seemed scared of something stronger. Following the ghost's gaze, Anner spotted another ghost. Suddenly, a fierce man burst into the room, trying to drag the girl away, despite her struggling violently. In the end, he forcibly dragged her into the basement. That's when Anner finally realized something unclean was in the house. He rushed back to pack and called his cousin. But unfortunately, the cousin was out traveling. Left with no choice, Anner tried to find the landlord to get some deposit back and escape this mess. But when he opened the door, the landlord's bro, a bald guy, said his brother wasn't home and slammed the door shut. Anner didn't want to stay even a second longer. Braving the snowstorm outside, he found he couldn't even afford a meal, let alone a motel. With nowhere else to go, he planned to crash in the subway. Just as he fretted about his next move, the subway lights went out, and the once crowded car was suddenly empty. Before he could react, his mother appeared nearby. Following her gaze, Anner slowly turned and saw something. The mysterious box was back, but this time the lid was open. And inside, a monster was trying to crawl out. Anner woke suddenly from a nightmare, unaware these bad dreams foreshadowed danger. He grabbed coffee and called the landlord. When the landlord came, he said he'd left the deposit at home, rushing out. Naively, Anner believed him and followed back to the haunted apartment. Time passed. No deposit came, and Anner realized he was tricked. Too late to act. A tall, muscular, bald man then forced Anner to drink a bottle of hard liquor. Powerless, he obeyed. After they locked the door and left, thinking the threat could return, Anner planned escape. Damei and Xiaomei entered quietly. They were also under threat. Remembering cries he'd heard, Anner suspected the landlord and bald man were locking missing tenants in the basement. He thought they were psychopaths, but then Damei said, "I've been dreaming all along, changing everything." In their dreams, everyone saw the person they missed most, linked to the strange box. At midnight, the girls' cries echoed from the vents. Suddenly, the girls who were victims appeared before Anner, all staring at her, warning her to leave. When Anner looked away, Damei and Xiaomei vanished, leaving only her mother standing by the door. That yank woke Anner up from the nightmare. At this moment, the bald guy and the landlord had barged in, about to take Damei and Xiaomei away. When Anner tried to stop them, the bald guy threw her against the wall. Just as he was about to teach her a lesson, the doorbell downstairs rang. It was Anner's uncle. When the landlord was asked about it, he immediately denied everything and tried to shut the door. But the uncle saw Anner's jacket through the crack. Hearing his niece's cries, the uncle forced his way in. Anner wanted to warn him about the other accomplices, but the bald man was already behind him. Against overwhelming force, the uncle had no chance and soon lay bleeding on the floor. Anner was chained up tightly. While the bald guy took Xiaomei downstairs, Anner begged the landlord, who was applying blue powder on him, to let her go. The landlord said this was all to cure his brother. His brother used to suffer from severe malaria, and the family couldn't afford treatment, so they moved home. By chance, the brother found their father's precious box, which could heal illnesses. From that day, he took over the sacrifices, just as their father did. Anner could see some conscience in the landlord, so she kept pleading for her life. The landlord softened, but just as he opened her shackles, she heard the brother coming upstairs. The bald man drew a rune on Anner's forehead and then hoisted her onto his shoulder, heading down to the basement. Along the way, the past victims appeared one by one, all looking at Anner with pity. It turned out they caused all the chaos before, trying to force Anner to flee quickly, but now it was already too late. In the basement, The bald man dragged little May's corpse to the altar. By then, his own head had been eaten by the monster. Anner was terrified and tried everything to escape but was caught and tightly bound. The bald man opened a nearby box, revealing a deep, bottomless tunnel that seemed to house something terrifying. As the iron door closed, muffled footsteps echoed inside, followed by a swarm of butterflies. Just as the monster was about to appear, the door opened again and Anner's cousin stumbled in, quickly unlocking her chains. He then tried to help her escape, but opening the door revealed. At the end of the road, Anner sees the scene of her mother's hospital room. Her mother gently strokes Anner's hair, hoping she can stay a while. Even though still somewhat aware, Anner also sees through the tunnel into the basement. It turns out she never survived, and her cousin didn't make it either. At that moment, an enormous muscular arm of a monster creeps slowly out of a box. The monster approached Anner, elegant yet terrifying, like a gigantic ant queen. As it opened its huge mouth to feed, Anner suddenly realized in her vision her mother was stalling to keep her trapped in a coma. She steeled herself, grabbed a pillow, and smothered her mother. Before being swallowed, she managed to open her eyes just in time. Startled, the monster hastily retreated into the box. To be safe, Anner sealed the box again. Meanwhile, Baldy was preparing the next sacrifice but felt something was off. Normally his wounds would heal after feeding, but today nothing changed. Baldy called his brother to check. Just as the landlord opened the door, Anner swung a bat at him. With relentless force, she knocked him down. Baldy rushed over, pushed Anner down, and stomped on her. As Baldy readied a killing blow on Anner, his sister untied the ropes and rammed into him from behind. Seizing the chance, the two fled desperately, but Baldy quickly caught up. He grabbed his sister and threw her downstairs. Baldy then turned back to deal with Anner. During the struggle, Anner picked up a sharp blade. Taking advantage of Baldy's grip choking her neck, she slashed at his throat, struck in the carotid artery. Baldy collapsed instantly. Anner then grabbed a nearby spiked club, furiously unleashing her anger on him. As Anner was about to leave, chaos erupted inside. The landlord wasn't dead. Remembering his past deeds, Anner decided to fight fire with fire. She tied him to the altar and watched the monster devour his head. Afterwards, Anner planned to leave this trouble spot. But at the doorway, her twisted ankle miraculously healed, and strength surged through her body. She immediately understood Baldy's obsession with sacrifices. Regular offerings brought rewards. Knowing she had nowhere else to go, Anner chose to stay and take over the apartment. And that's today's story. See you next recap.